Hi everyone, this is Prasid, presenting my seminar on seeing housing as a process more than a product. So do you live in a house in one of such housing schemes? I think I assume most of you, but if not, just imagine you live in one of those houses. So are you like satisfied in all aspects with the spaces that have been provided to you by your developer right now? You can just think of an answer. From 5 to 10 years from now. So do you feel like as you grow, as your family grows, your requirements of spaces will change? And much later, after 20 to 30 years, with such a dynamic family lifestyle, do you think the static and the stationary nature of your house is enough to cater your needs? So yeah, all of them will remain the same even after 25-30 years, but your life won't remain static. So do our houses really allow for the possibility of change? That's the question I'm posing. So let's understand what things will demand this change. Family structure, like there will be new births, deaths, the number of members will increase or decrease. So hence the space requirement is directly proportional to the family number of occupants. Financial status, it is expected that in 20 to 30 years your income increases, decreases, and accordingly your desire to buy a new house or to extend or to renovate that demand will lead to a change in your house. Technological advancement, so we know the world is moving at a fast pace, and just imagine the world before 20 years, you will not have LCD, LED TVs, and at such a rapid pace, you can imagine new things coming up, new electronic devices coming up, which will require larger spaces, and your house will be 20 years old, so it will need to have that flexibility to have those devices. And transforming neighborhood. If you don't change your house, maybe your neighbors will change your house, and because of that, you will have to adapt to that change. So these are the core reasons I think why changes in your houses would occur. But on the other hand, what is currently going on in housing right now in India is the houses are monotonous. A plan is given by the developer, and everybody, each and every family has to live in that plan, and there are rules of the society that do not allow for changes or expansion. Insensitive to dwellers, so the designs are always done keeping in mind an ideal plan. The developer thinks that this plan will fit to all the families, but it actually does not. Standardization, standardized mode of production. So catering to the housing deficiency, what the economy has done, it has started mass producing houses, and the economy feels this is how they can achieve the target of giving house to everyone, but it is not the case. And in search of an ideal plan, so each and every project comes up with a different plan, but then it is repeated within the plan, but each and every house is a different family, so that is quite often forgotten. But how have dwellers achieved desired changes even in these existing conditions of housing? So I'll take you through few case studies where the dwellers have made changes even though the economy is in such condition. So let's go to Shastri Nagar, the case of Shastri Nagar. On the right side is a typical block plan. So it's a Gujarat Housing Board scheme constructed in 1976 using the existing construction technology, RCC frame structure with brick infill walls. House number 1. So the existing unit consisted of two bedrooms, 2 toilets, 1 kitchen, 1 living room, and a dining area. And upon my case study analysis, I found out that to meet the demands, there have been changes made in the house. So they had started by adding supports. So new columns were added following the existing grid pattern. New infill walls were added between the columns. So few interior walls were demolished and new walls were added to get the desired change. And finally, this is the unit how it comes up. So one room is added in the front yard, which is labeled as 1. The number 2 is a rare area in the bedroom, which is quite unique in itself, but it's a rare area. Number 3 is a new washroom is added, and number 4, the front veranda is enclosed. House number 2 in Shastri Nagar. So again, new supports were added. So this is the same unit but on the right hand side of the block. New columns were added according to the existing grid plan. The infill walls were added, and wherever required, very minimal demolition was there. So what they have done is they have enclosed the balcony. They have entirely added a new room. With the room, they have taken a terrace into their house, and they have taken a small partition between the living and the dining space of the house, which is now 4. So this is how the unit looks after change. The case of Solar Road. So this is from Pushpak Apartments, Solar Road, Ahmedabad. On the right side is a typical block plan of the same. Again, this is a scheme by Gujarat Housing Board, constructed in the year of 1987. It's a load-bearing structure with RCC slab. It's a walk-up type apartment. House number 1. It again consists of the same. It's a 2 BHK apartment. Supports were added. New columns were added according to the requirements. So the new columns are added in the margin space, which has been shown in the block plan. So that was already a part of the housing scheme, and that's where they add the new columns. This is a ground floor unit, so they've expanded quite a bit. The infill walls are added, the dotted ones are removed, and the solid red lines are the walls that have been added, and the plinth is also added. So what they have added is a car parking, that is number 1. A dining area, which was initially not there in the unit. A bedroom is added. With the bedroom comes the washroom and the toilet and the bath area. A storage has been added, and a chokri has been added. Similarly, I take another case of Solar Road. This is a top floor case study. It's on the 3rd floor. Again, the supports have been added within the margin. Infills have been added, and whatever was required has been demolished. And this is how the unit looks after the change. So number 1 is an office space has been added. 2 is the toilet and the bath area. Number 3 is an entire bedroom has been added. 4 is again the toilet and bath area. 5 is a storage area, and 6 is the puja room. So through this case studies, what I understand is the relationship between the changing lifestyle, changing need, flexibility, which brings about spatial variations, and adaptability. So flexibility comes in response to changing lifestyle and the changing need, and it results to spatial variation, adaptability, and customizability. Exactly what we want to break the monotony, hence we get the variations here. So a Dutch architect called John Hoogkaken, he has worked extensively in housing. So according to him, he says we need to recognize the needs of each and every user and the family, and we cannot give them standardized plans as their houses. So a house being a personal thing, the house should adapt to the user. And large scale, he was not against large scale buildings, but he always believed that large scale buildings should be interwoven. They should be interwoven of these smaller units that are defined, that are made by the dwellers themselves. So he clearly said that uniformity in mass housing is not due to the action of machine, but due to the non-action of man. So he was not against standardization, but what he believed was mass housing should standardize the process rather than the product. So he was completely clearly against the developer-driven mindset where developers took houses as products and they started mass-producing houses as products. So according to Hoogkaken, the aim of this theory was to accommodate the changing changing user needs in the housing, and he suggested that let us not predict what the users what will be the change. Let's just give a provision to accommodate the change. So he clearly distinguished between two elements: one which would remain the static requirement of a housing scheme, and one which would be a dynamic requirement. So the static requirement was named as, support system, and the dynamic was named as infills. So what does the support system consist of? It consists of the structure, which is the column and the slab. It consists of services that will include the shafts and the cables and piping, and it will include the circulation of stairs and passages. Now, by separating the structure from the infill, Habriken sees the house and giving the power for the users to make their own houses. He sees housing like making houses as a process rather than giving them a product in their hand. And for him, the end product of how the house will be eventually was not a matter, because he felt it is up to the dwellers who have to adapt, who have to select their own house, who have to make their own houses actually. So this is how the structures part is constant, and how the interior or the infill part keeps changing, and this is what will bring in variations. So home for him is always work in progress, but what happens outside the house is this. So for the same case study in the same area, if I had taken a view of what happens outside the house, they could achieve whatever they wanted inside the house. This is what happens. How does Habriken's theories work in the Indian context? Cultural acceptance. I feel in India it will take time for people to accept the notion of an infill wall, because infill wall as a dry partition, as a dry wall, because generally for us walls have always been brick walls. So getting this flexibility of changing infill walls will be a tough thing to culturally accept. Urban scale coherence, clearly the image shows that there is no coherence among each and any building. Eventually everybody has done whatever they wanted, but in an urban scale there is no review of this. Technological feasibility, often dry wall construction in India is still expensive compared to brick wall, so people would not prefer this method. And regulatory challenges. So currently without giving a layout plan, your plans do not pass, and there are a couple of projects that have been successfully done this, but it takes a lot of work with the government to pass such plans. So this is the question I pose. How does will Habriken's theory work in Indian context? Thank you.